The opposition coalition, African Democratic Congress, has dismissed the presidency's clarification as a mere attempt at political correctness. In a statement, the interim National Publicity Secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, said the vice president needs to stand by the forthright and courageous statement which affirms that the president has no constitutional power to remove an elected councillor, let alone a sitting governor, and called on President Tinubu to immediately restore democratic governance in Rivers State. Well, to provide more light on this issue emanating from the remarks of Vice President Kashim Shettima at that book launch on Thursday is Arise News analyst Dr. Sam Amadi, who is also the director, Abuja School of Thought. Thank you so much for being on the news tonight. Great to see you again.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
I think a fine place to begin would be to actually explain what the difference between removal and suspension is, because that seems to be the argument in some quarters, including the office of the vice president.
I think for practical purposes, they are similar. But in terms of definitions, of course, removal means you're removed from office, but suspension means that office is in abeyance until a named occurrence or time. So essentially, what the president did in the case of Rivers is to suspend, so to say, the operations of that office. But from a practical, substantive perspective, one would say the effect is that the governor can no longer perform that function. And the president appoints his own nominee, who is the sole administrator, to run the office. So I think the nuances, look, let's get back to what this is. This is about a vice president who, unprovoked, the journalist didn't ask me a question. This is like an anecdote. He could have said several things about Adoke, how smart, courageous. The book is also about oil block and the crisis and the seeming or alleged persecution Adoke suffered. But fortuitously, without any provocation, he brought out a narrative about his own experience under Jonathan. And not just that experience, he talked more about how opposition leaders, Adoke himself, the Tambuwa, who is leading opposition, and Erufai, of course, he said present things about them. So it seems to me that it's intentional. It's a curveball. It's a statement that the vice president made to illustrate contrast in context. They say context of everything. Contrast what may look like courageous leadership at the Attorney General's office and the National Assembly with what now appears like, weak kind of leadership now. So, yes, I sympathize with Stanley Nkwocha because probably not intended, but they have to say what it's about. Contextually, this is a statement that was unprovoked. It wasn't like media asked him.
Right.
Yeah. So it seems to me that it's intentional, and the impact it's having now, it's probably foreseeable for a president, a VP who is very smart, understands how the media landscape is. It's a predictable surprise, if it's surprising.
And that's exactly why I'm going to ask you whether the damage hasn't been done already. I mean, in terms of the import of what the vice president, said, that a president does not have the power to remove, or is it suspend now?
Yeah.
Which one it is? Local government chairman. Ditto, the governor.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So I think that
the genie is out of the bottle.
Absolutely. And the vice president accurately, in my view, and I've quarreled with the so-called removal of the Rivers governor, that the president has no powers under the Constitution. He can suspend, impose stiff conditions. That's the state of emergency. He has no power to remove a governor or suspend the governor. In fact, for all purposes, suspend and remove the state. So the vice president studied the situation appropriately. I want to believe that the vice president shot that shot, to say that we erred constitutionally for removing the governor of Rivers. That's intention. Because he was very emphatic that the president has no power to remove. And removal and suspension are the same. If the president has a power under 305, 305 talks about declaration of emergency, which, so the president is saying, in that process, I can actually suspend the president. He can actually remove. So this kind of semantic, passing, try to pass the words to say, okay, that's not intention. They're trying to say that no governor, no president can remove a governor, but we've done it, and therefore Because we did it because we had weak advisors. We had people who have no courage to say, don't do it. Jonathan, as alleged, was about to do it, but was stopped because of the Attorney General. So I think it's also a shot at the Attorney General now to say, look, if this Attorney General was strong enough, he would have restrained my boss.
Right.
So this is a Vice President, in my view, speaking aloud is perhaps remonstrance and, maybe this opinion. But let's not forget, the Vice President has no independent presidential power. He's a president who acts. But the Vice President in this case seems to fault what his boss has done. It's politically damaging. I guess I respect the fact that the president has to, call it back and reframe it.
Damage control,
Absolutely.
and it's a tough job. But you spoke about context being important.
Yeah.
Let's go back to what the Vice President said yesterday. He did say that this particular incident cemented his relationship eternally with these two gentlemen. So in his context, he was narrating how he became friends with the Speaker of the then House of Representatives, Aminu Tambuwa, and the then Attorney General Mohammed Bello Adoke. So when you said context, he was talking about friendship.
Absolutely.
And so isn't that twisting what the Vice President had said when you refer to context? And then again,
sure.
why do you think that, these institutions have now become what seemed like enablers? If the National Assembly, in the person of the Speaker then and the AGF, was able to stop a sitting president from removing an elected governor, how come it's possible now? What has changed?
A lot. Okay, first, to be fair, I think what the Vice President said about friendship with
Adoke and
Tambuwa is also a contextual shot, again, at his boss. Because these are Tambuwa, for example, is a leading opponent of this government. And at this point, Tambuwa is not launching a book. It's not just a bad day. So it's gratuitous again. Gratuitous. You don't need to say it. But you say, look, my love for this young man is eternal. So you say, you know what? I'm so close to this guy that nothing can separate. And this is a guy who wants to unseat his boss. Very big statement that you need to mind. But back to the issue around, what has changed. First, you had a Tambuwa who came in spite of Jonathan. And again, he had a political incentive to war against Jonathan. And through that period, there was not good relationship between the president and the National Assembly. Tambuwa making head on her, and so on. It's rather the Senate they had good rapport. So forget minus Tambuwa's knowledge of law, courage, integrity. He also had political interests to stop Jonathan.
Right.
Now, what has happened, changed now, is that you have a National Assembly that is, hip on hip with the president, brought by the president, fully with him in everything he's doing. In fact, a few days ago, I was at the high-level fiscal policy roundtable, was a moderator for National Assembly, and some of the legislators are very angry with the quality of leadership of their houses. Why? They feel that you had Adam Oshomole today, I think, or yesterday, say, not everything we must slam dunk for the president. So you have a National Assembly now characterized differently, but different political incentive, different leadership style, and different politics. And so they are in cahoot with the president, unlike that National Assembly that had political incentives to disagree. So
and after that meeting between Tinubu, Wike and Fubara, loud silence, you would have thought that Fubara would be back in the saddle as the governor of Rivers State. Wonder what exactly is going on with that.
Politics is a long knife, long knife. So maybe down the line you come, or maybe that humiliation is enough for political capital.
Hope they're not sharpening that knife.
Dr. Sam Amadi will have to say thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight. We'll see how things pan out.